Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Operation Vet Now's No Neutral podcast. I'm your host, Taylor. Here with me today is Jason Chili Childers, who is an Air Force veteran.
How you doing?
So I got to ask, how did you get your name Chili? Because I've got a couple notes here, but I don't have that.
Yeah, I think if I'm completely honest with you, it was straight laziness just because my last name's Childers and they're like, oh, Chili, it's easy. I had a captain, uh, they called him Cookie. I had my supervisor who's called Burrito, and they're like, hey, Chili, there we go. We got the three food groups and we'll just call it a day. So I got it when I was in the CRG a long time ago. I was probably a fresh E4 back in the day, so it was quite a while ago. And I just stuck with it this whole time, and people still call me it, so I'm just keeping the call sign.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It's easy. Once you get something, decent, you kind of want to stick with it because something worse could always come along.
Oh, for sure. I
Uh,
got I got lucky. I've heard some bad ones in my day, so yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I haven't met very many pilots. Most of the ones I've met are warrant officers in the Army, but they don't really have call signs kind of like pilots do. So I can see, with the Air Force, some differences there.
Yeah.
So you spent 20 years exactly, 20 years and some change.
It's 20 years and 25 days. Yeah, I just retired 1 January.
Nice. Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Uh, it's always good to, I'm sure you were like 19 and a half in and you're like, all right, here's my paperwork. I'm retiring on this day. My enlistment ends on this day.
Yeah, it was a real personal decision. If everything was, you know, best case scenario, I probably would have stayed longer, but Um, I kind of looked at the totality of the circumstances. Like I'm looking at my career. I know I was in a good place. I was a first sergeant. I was loving the unit I was in. I could have kept going, but I had to look back to my family and my body and my self-preservation. Like, you know what, it might be time. And I had those conversations probably 2, 3 years out. I had a lot of my mentors start to like retire and roll out the door and talk to them, be like, man, when you really get that itch and you know it's probably coming, you should probably start talking to people. And it just turned out that way for me. It was pretty natural. Everything lined up um, how I would have loved it to line up for retirement. So I punched when I felt it was good. And I have no regrets.
No, I don't blame you. I work with a guy who's finishing up his time as a first sergeant. He's like, I can't wait to. I'm not sure if the Air Force is similar, where E8 is first sergeant, but you can be a master sergeant and kind of have that senior leadership role
So
without being in
yeah,
charge.
you can have E8 first sergeants in the Air Force, but it actually starts at E7. I'm
Oh,
retired at 7, so I went and I started out on the job. I was doing it additional duty is what we call. I'm not sure how the Army is, but we call additional duty where you're kind of like the backup guy. Like you want to get
hmm.
your feet wet and see how it is, and they trust you. So they did that for me, but they did that for a full year straight. And they're like,
Okay.
man, you've been doing it for so long and you already applied for the academy. So when the date came, I just kind of transitioned into it. You get your diamond in a 4 year commitment typically. I know they've been making changes um, to that. And when it comes to the rank, E8 is a step up. You become more of like a mentor role. And
Hmm.
in that mentor role, you kind of have like certain elevations. There's different units that have billets assigned for E8s only. Um, but typically, if you have a first sergeant that you fit the bill, a lot of it has to do with your culture that you bring. If you're a good personality fit or leadership style fit to that leadership team in the unit, they'll transition you into a senior billet. That's what happened to me when I finished my last unit in security forces. So I started in a support role with E7 without my diamond. Then I got my diamond. I was transferred over to the Intel group. I did Intel for 2 years, and I did about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, at security forces total time. Uh, all at E7, E8 is really like the building block, and then a lot of people kind of
Hmm.
transition out at that point, and so they'll go back to being, the E8 rank in their career field, or they have to train or do whatever to get in something else. And you can also be an E9 first sergeant in the Air Force.
Oh, really? Yeah, because RE9s are sergeant majors,
Yeah,
whatever level, whether it's brigade, battalion, all the way up.
we have chief shirts or tops like equivalent. that I don't see very many of those now. Like you don't see too many chief shirts. Typically, they're all in a command role. I probably had one chief shirt that I could think of that was at the base level. So you kind of start to get brought up to a higher level of command once you hit the E9 rank as a diamond. Uh, it it does transition pretty well. We have the command chief and stuff like command sergeant majors and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, it's similar. A little bit of a pay difference for us because E7's normally like platoon sergeant in the Army.
mm,
Sometimes they are, a little bit higher than that. Sometimes it's an E6 if they're unlucky and there's no E7s around.
yeah,
Um, no, it's kind of cool seeing the similariries and differences because I haven't dealt with the Air Force too much. I've mainly dealt with the Marine Corps, and a little bit of the Navy, just interacting at Camp Grayling because that's who's there,
mm,
for a massive training operation we have going on every year.
that's awesome.
So you mentioned mentors getting out. So it sounds like you got lucky that you got in and you got some good mentors who are only a couple years ahead of you, maybe two, three, four, five, something like that.
Yeah, I had quite a few that were spaced out throughout my career. I did a little bit of catching up in the latter part of my career, but as far as my mentors go, it was really anyone who I could look at that's been there, done that kind of a situation, and they can feed into me in a way that didn't make my my stomach turn. Like you get
Hmm.
those folks. I remember I had a retired E9 come to me, and all he wanted to do is talk about like, dude, I'll take you under my wing and all I do is win, win, win. I'll write you a package, you'll get promoted. I'm just like, dude, no thanks, I'll pass, because I didn't want to be part of the good old boys club. I'd
Hmm.
rather have mentors that would actually care about me and they'll correct me and they'll get the hammer down on me if I'm the one screwing up. So I was very fortunate throughout my career. I had plenty of people that were farther ahead in rank. Uh, I had plenty of folks that were same rank, one rank above that I really look up to and still do today.
No, I totally get that. Yeah, with the military, sometimes you see people come in as a private and they're 18 years old. Sometimes they might be 25 and are done with college and coming in as an E4.
Yep.
It's you run in all sorts of people in all walks of life who just it's a melting pot, and it's good to have good mentors who are like, let's develop you. I can see you've got something going on. You can take my position or go past me, but I want you to do things the right way so that way you don't get hemmed up in something.
Oh, for sure. And I had a lot of good had a lot of good people that shared the same values that I shared that didn't try to force like an ideology on me. Uh, I know there was a lot of folks growing up in the Air Force that you could tell who took like a certain path. You got the folks that are like they're in it for themselves. You got the people that are just here to work, and you got the people that want to like they'll lead if they need to, right? And we have
Hmm.
natural leaders too. But like for me, it was more along the path of like I saw a lot of examples of what not to do early on in my career. And I had a lot of good folks that were like, dude, you need to make sure that your own stuff doesn't stink. Like if you got uh this bubble that's around you, that's how I like to describe it to young leaders was if you have a sphere of influence, you have this little bubble and everything that you own is inside of this bubble. Your troops, your job, your qualifications, your training experience, all that stuff. You need to take care of this one thing before you can talk about anything else. And I had a lot of folks that really like embedded that in my head. And so I was able to pass that on. And I think it worked out pretty well. Um, but it's really rewarding when you see people taking it for themselves, uh, putting their own twist on it. Like I'm glad that you can take something good from me, but I don't want them to be like a clone of me. I want them to do it
Hmm.
their own way too. And to see them many of these folks like doing the right thing and taking care of their people and excelling like in a way that is respectable, one that like they don't have to
Hmm.
shudder when they look in the mirror every day. Like that's really rewarding to see
No, totally. I've heard of the term servant leadership before, and
for sure.
that needs to be used, a little bit more. Your job as a leader is to serve your people so that way their job is to accomplish the mission. Your job is to make sure they know what the mission is, then they're on task.
Mm, for sure.
Um, so you've had it's what sounds like a wide range of roles. Did you say stay the same job the entire time? you've been in, or did you reclass into other jobs?
So I had a weird start. I actually initially tried to go Army. My dad caught me at the recruiter's office back home in Spanaway, Washington. I heard his truck. Like he had a distinct sound on his work truck. I could hear like the
Hmm.
ladders rattling on the racks. And I was looking at the sergeant. I was like, dude, we need to hurry up. Because I was trying to go 11 Bravo just to get it over with. It was back in 2005. And my dad walked in. He's a second generation Air Force guy. He basically grabbed me and pulled me into the Air Force store right next door. And was like, I'll deal with the recruiter. You can sit here. And he told the Air Force recruiter he's not leaving without a contract. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm Air Force now. So I went in there. Uh, I tried to just kind of take whatever job I can get that was within interest. And for me at the time, the list I was given, I thought I was going medical, but they kept pushing like, if I can remember, it was like some form of intel, airborne reconnaissance, weather. Uh, and so I was like, yeah, sure, just put whatever down as long as I can get that medical job as number one. And I was just a tiny violin story. I showed up to basic
Hmm.
training. They're like, hey, guess what? You're a weather guy. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, oh, I got God, just like anybody else. So I started out in weather and I had to reclass early on because I just tried to get out of there. My my training squadron commander, she's the one who I had to convince basically to get out of her career field because she was a weather officer.
Hmm.
And when I convinced her to get out, I asked to go security forces, and she's like, "Well, we're not going to send you to another base to go to training. I need you to pick a job in this unit." And one had to do with money, and the other one was basically like S1 work. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay, well, what's this personnel job? I don't want to deal with people's money. What's this personal job? And she made it sound, and after doing 4 years as a first sergeant, it's like spot on. Like the way she sold it was like, you're going to be a first sergeant. And I was like, whatever this job is, this is the coolest job in the world. And then lo and behold, I'm sitting at a desk. So I was initially a little salty about it. But I had the opportunities to just try stuff out in my career and it started really early on.
Hmm.
I got my deployment to Iraq. I was in E3. I was 19 years old. Uh, I had just gotten the opportunity to do honor guard, so I was doing honor guard for quite some time, and I got that piece of paper. Like, just hurry up and sign it. Don't even read it. And I'm like, I'll read it. And then I read, and it was my tasking order. So I signed that, and I got to augment for security forces when I was deployed. So that was kind of my first taste out of my career field. Coming back, I had more time in honor guard, so I was able to serve doing something that was definitely greater than my own self. Something I'll always be proud of being an honor guardsman. Uh, Went to the contingency response wing. People in modern Air Force known as the CRG, but at the time at Travis Air Force Base, California, it was called the contingency response wing. We got to deploy a couple times out of there. And in that job, you're doing everyone's job. Like no one's
Hmm.
special. If you need someone to set up a comm satellite, you're going to get out there and do that. If you need to patrol with the cops and set up wire, or you're going to do aircraft maintenance stuff or loading and unloading aircraft. So that was kind of like my first taste of the bigger picture outside of my career
Hmm.
field. And it helped me because going into a career field in the Air Force that I wasn't fulfilled in, it kind of taught me to change my mindset. So as I got back to the career field and I was working back in an office for, a little bit of time before I'd branch out and do something else, I started to take it more seriously. Like, okay, well, I got to take care of my people then. Like, I may not know this defender or this fireman or a PJ that comes
Hmm.
across, but I'm gonna take care of them, whatever their needs are. So that kind of helped shift my mindset a little bit. I got to get into instructing. I taught quite a few classes, a lot of public speaking opportunities, teaching in like the various courses that's going on. I was a master resilience instructor for 6 years. Uh, I got to get an exit as an E6 into the Green Door program,
Hmm.
just basically a fancy way of saying the TS, SEI kind of jobs, like the ones you don't talk about. And I got to do a
Okay.
great thing for 3 years. It was amazing. Had nothing to do with my job. I got hired on and I was doing all this other cool stuff, and I had a great time doing that. And I transitioned out to become a first sergeant shortly after that. So, and that's how I finished the last four of my careers was as a first sergeant.
No, it's really cool that you got to vary. You had a specific job, you know, but you were able to dabble in, it sounds like almost just about every career field outside of, you know, working like in a C-130 or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird when you get into a job like that, and I know a lot of troops. I've had the privilege of talking to them and both the Army side and the Air Force side, and they're in like S1 or personnel career field, and they're sitting there like, well, I don't do much, and I'm like, dude, go and find the opportunity, or if the opportunity falls in front of your lap, like take it, say yes. If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to discover more about yourself and your service. And I think a lot of people can start to take their service and their oath for granted. So for me, it was something that motivated me. And the greatest parts of my career came from just saying yes to an opportunity, just checking it out, see if I liked it. It never let me down.
Hmm. No, it's I'm a logistics guy for maintenance, so I order their parts to the job orders and stuff. So anytime I got to cross train and work on a truck, I took that opportunity because
Absolutely.
you can only do so much sitting at an office desk and plugging it away and looking at spreadsheets and stuff. You can't do it all day every day. You need some change. So I totally get being able to or wanting to, you know, try on the different hats and be
Yeah.
a part of, different things.
But there's something to be said about job proficiency, right? Like we all need to be proficient at the job that we were put into, right? In that
Hmm.
role. But even for the people that are in it to win it, like they're trying to climb the ladder, even for those folks, like you got to diversify your portfolio just like you would in civilian world. So it's like you need to be first and foremost proficient in what you do. But it's if I'm the one looking at your, let's say,
Hmm.
an awards package, or maybe we're gonna do some type of a promotion statement on their evaluation, and I'm on that board, I'm looking at like what's the total worth of this person? Are they clearly doing the bare minimum, just checking boxes, or they like actually want to be here and do the thing? Because
Hmm.
I want to have someone that just wants to climb the ladder, and then when they get on the ladder, they don't use their stripes, and they're not
Yeah,
being good leaders. So yeah, it's really important for sure.
no, it definitely is. So you spent a good bit of time as a first sergeant. How what did it mean? What did it mean to you to be in that role, and how do you how do you want your time, or your people to think about? Because everyone's had at least one first sergeant, if not more,
Mhm.
in their time in the military, whether it's short contract, long contract. How do you want them to remember their time with you?
Well, I'll say right off the bat, being a first sergeant was my dream job. Once I hit about E5, I had a bunch of troops. I had a great first sergeant, and I was really salty. I was a salty E5, and I was falling into a lot of the anger traps, just dealing with people that I didn't line up with in the mind. And for me, I'm like looking at them, and I had all these complaints that go to my first sergeant. And he's like, dude, if you got a problem, why don't you do something about it? All you're doing is coming to me. You're just complaining. You need to be about what it is that you're preaching to, because you're just coming over here and you're giving me this show. And he's like, I need you to be about it and do something. And I was like, dang, well, that's a good call out. So I took that to heart. And the more and more I started to interact with this guy, I was like, dude, that's the job I want. So I would say as a first sergeant, my time, uh, it's easily the best part of my career, the most rewarding, hands down. I truly didn't care about the administrative portion of it.
Hmm.
I did what I had to do to keep my book straight, like to make sure that everything was good. Uh, Obviously, when you're dealing with the not so good stuff, kicking people out, demotions,
Yep.
uh, coordination for mental health, I did a lot of crisis intervention in my 4 years. Um, I, I guess for me, the thing I would hope to be remembered for the most is that people know good and well that I gave a crap about them,
Hmm.
that I led by being a leader that actually cared about his people and spoke for his people, but uh, I wasn't going to just try to feed them, right? I don't want to turn my people into takers. I want them to
Hmm.
also be servant leaders. Leadership is something huge, and in my personal like culture, I think it's the only way to go. I think if you want to lead people, you have to learn how to serve first, and you can be effective in that aspect. Take care of your leaders, take care of your people. And when you get to that 30,000 foot view, and you're in the big room, and you have a voice, you better make it count. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I'd say that my hope is that people just know that I cared about them, and that I did a good job taking care of them, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Hmm.
I did everything I possibly could and to advocate, but I had no problem being the hammer. And I think that's something that your people can appreciate more when you actually build a relationship with your people. Like if I'm going to slap a hammer down on you and I got to be the person to be the commander's bulldog, I'm going to let you know you earned it, but you're going to
Hmm.
appreciate that because I'm only doing this because it's business at this point, and I'll go back to being, the first sergeant that you know. But right now it's business, and if someone earned it, I got to explain that to them, right? And I found that being a personable first sergeant that's able to be there with them, even on the mats, right? Like when they're doing combatives, I
Hmm.
do combatives. If the intel folks were in a briefing, I went into the briefings. If they stay late, I stay late. It was just one of those things where I had to lead from the front. And if I didn't meet them where they were, all my little speeches and all my little moments where I'm trying to put a hand on their shoulder when they're going through the hardest time of their life, it doesn't matter because it's not going to be a connection that's going to have a bridge for them to like actually trust me, right? And have the communication flow going. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's my hope. And I think I did a decent job of it. They haven't shut me out of their lives yet. I'm still cooking and still
That's
connected.
good.
So yeah.
No, it sounds like you had kind of what you had early on in your career, a mentor who cared about their career and their
Yeah.
progression, but also as a person, you cared about them and wanted the best for them. And if you had to, put somebody in line, or you've got to as a leader, sometimes if somebody, kicks a rock and that rock breaks a window, someone's got to be in trouble for that window.
Yeah, someone's gonna handle that cleanup too. So,
Yep.
there's a lot of like dirty, ugly things about the job that you have to get into, and it doesn't feel good to have
Hmm.
to be that person, but at the same time, it's kind of necessary too. It's a greater responsibility um, in that role. Like I've been a part of a lot of people getting discharged in my career, and although it was difficult for both the troop and us as a team to do that, we had to do what we had to do. So it was a business. It was business mode kind of transactions where we had to go, look, dude, like you're gonna go in there, you're gonna see the commander, and your blues are gonna look good because you're about to get handed out, whatever their decision is. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna tell you right now, it's not gonna be good. So after this is done, I'll see you in my office. And there was often times you had the biggest breakthrough throughs after having them face that ultimate reality check in their career, come to the first sergeant's office and I'm like, okay, close the door, have a seat, relax, take a breath. How are you doing? And we can pick
Hmm.
up the mess and we can do all those things. I know you're emotional. I'll give you a minute before we start talking business. And to have them do that, you could see that they'll trust you along the way, even on the dark paths that they're on.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's really, really big stuff, man.
No, it's awesome. I'm sure you mentioned it. You've been able to help a lot of people, with the various struggles that they're dealing with, whether it's, injury or mental health.
For sure.
Um, how how was that, the mental health side of it? Because I've been in 13-ish years, 14 years, close to that. And from when I started versus now, it's changed for the better on how, like, listen, if you have problems, you need to get help. We don't
Yeah.
care, how long it takes. We want you, you know, to be where you're supposed to be.
So, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Mental health is a lot better now, but I will tell you, like, yes, there's a major contrast, right? When I came in '05, no one talked about mental health. Then when I deployed in
Hmm.
'07 for the first time, and I was getting back from Iraq, I had a first sergeant of all people on the plane telling us we were coming back from, I think we are hitting Germany before we hit the pond to come over to the East Coast and start dispersing, right? And I remember him being on that plane, going up and down the aisles, talking to us, and he's like, "If you're a mess, go home, have a drink, talk about it to your families, talk about it to your buddies. You will not report it to medical." And we're like, okay. And we just kind of took it for what it was. That was just the standing order. And we're like, okay, cool. We're just not going to talk about it. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that there wasn't any good projection out to the masses as far as what the importance of mental health was. Mental health existed. Those career fields
Hmm.
existed when I first joined. They were already pre-existing. They would always say come in, but everyone's stereotype of mental health is like you go there, your career ends. And so with that being my start versus now when it's like almost a little bit too far to the other side of
Hmm.
the pendulum, because you have folks now that take it major advantage over that kind of service, and they treat it kind of like a fast food drive through, or they're like, hey, I'm gonna go to Walgreens, buy a Band-Aid. I'm gonna throw a Band-Aid on this
Hmm.
thing. So I think even though it's an emphasis, and I've seen it with this administration that they talk about mental health too, as long with like previous administrations before. I think the problem is that you have professionals who are hired to do a job to take care of these troops, right? You have such
Hmm.
a hard influx in, and with the limitations of funding, there's just not enough of the folks to combat that, right? To kind of help balance out the
Yeah.
folks. And I know, especially in career fields like, let's say, intelligence or uh, security forces, they get put on lists to where they can't function in their capacity when they hit a certain level of like intervention needed for their mental health
Hmm.
care. So I talked about that in my own podcast. In my first episode, I was kind of going on a rant, and my thoughts were, you have a it's not 9/11, but it's a new conflict, right? That's going on right
Yeah.
now, and you have folks that are kind of used to this battle rhythm, and it's like, okay, well, what are we doing at the unit level to help the mental health folks out? Because they're going to do everything that they can. But when you have
Hmm.
such a hard influx, and I'm sure you could speak to the Army side better than me, but on the Air Force side, once you get to a certain point and there's so many people, they get referred out to other agencies. And you
Hmm.
got folks that can't be effectively taken care of now, so they end up going to 30-day plus treatment facilities in other states. Or they go to local partial hospitalization. You see that now. And although you get some success stories, I find that there's a lot of folks that are out there that get government contracts, not to mention names, obviously, but there are folks that are out there that have no problem medicating your troops
Hmm.
and just drugging them up, and then they get returned back to the formation. But the culture is now, and it's not entirely across the board, but there's a big trend where you have folks that get heavily medicated. They go through the steps of some, you know, countdown, like a 30-day countdown before they get brought
Hmm.
back to the formation. Once they get to the formation automatically assumes we were good now, so get back to work.
Yeah.
And they're not, because there's no follow through. And then these
Hmm.
folks end up going through that revolving door. So I think it's not figured out. I think there's a lot of good points there, but I think a lot of it's going to have to do with like, what are we doing to take care of our people when they're not in mental health? Because if
Yeah.
you have leaders that aren't promoting good lifestyles, which is why I love what OVN does, how it's like trying to show you that like, look, there's a way to do this where you're not crawling in a bottle or emptying a pill bottle, or thinking about suicide, or just going down
Hmm.
like a rotten path. Like, there's so many different avenues you can take, and sports is obviously one of them. Well, like, there's a lot
Yeah.
of good practices that a lot of troops utilize. I got troops that do like streaming, like how we were kind of talking about earlier.
Hmm.
Like, they got streaming, podcasting, they got gaming, they got communities, they got sports, they got martial arts, they got the gym therapy, they got running. There's so many good things that folks get into, but it's not communicated well enough. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lack of invitation to the folks that just don't have the courage or the commitment to jump ahead and find something good. So then the influx starts to go back towards the mental health facilities. They get bogged down. I think the higher up, higher headquarters and everyone, they have that down pat when they say that there are resources available. It's just not enough because of how culture is driving them to mental health. And I think
Yeah.
if you start attacking the culture, you can start making a real difference.
And also, it's not said enough that just because you went to see a therapist, they're not going to be able to fix everything in the first session. But
Yeah,
also, the perfect therapist for me is not the same as yours. We
for
might
sure.
need two, three, four, go through five different people in order to find our best match. Kind of, almost like shoes or boots, hats, even. It takes you a second to find that perfect fit.
Yeah. It's funny
Um,
because I did go to mental health at one point because I wanted to get a retirement tune-up. That was my
mhm.
plan. I wanted to get my head checked, make sure I wasn't a psycho, like that my family would be like, hey, dude, this guy's a mess. And so I went in there, had a good conversation with one mental health professional, And then maybe like a couple months later, I was bringing a troop in, and there was a major from the DC area that was manning our office at the medical group, and she was there to plus up our numbers because we were short. And she called me straight out. She's like, "Dude, you need to get somebody." I was like, "Well, I talked to the last person and said I'm good." Like, "No, you're not good. I'm telling you right now, you're not good. I've been talking to you for months." And she's the one who booked me my first
Hmm.
provider. It was more like she was telling me. And I'm very glad she did that because it helped me sort some things out, kind of get fresh in the head and ready for retirement. And lo and behold, she was at my retirement ceremony. So I have a lot to thank her for. So I really appreciate that. Major Haymore, shout out to her.
No,
She's the
yeah,
best.
no, that's awesome. Yeah, because I can see it from, wife kids perspective of going through your career with you. Some of them have only known you in uniform potentially. Not saying you specifically, but like my kids have only known me in uniform. Um, that if you change over time, they're not going to notice it until it gets to, a point that you don't want it to get to. But you could visit family and they could go, "Oh, wait a second. What's going on, bud? You're a little off. What's happening?" The people you don't see as often can definitely see the changes that
For
maybe
sure.
your family can't.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So you brought up the various aspects, and some sports are a little bit more expensive than others. I do motocross, which is not as expensive as CJ, who will be talking to, who races cars and bodybuilding,
Yes.
which um, hopefully I'll get a mountain biker soon too. But that's also an expensive sport if you've seen the price of bikes these days.
Yes,
Um, you
insane.
got you got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is one of, if most people are familiar with the UFC, which is MMA, this is one of the aspects of that specifically. What made you choose jiu-jitsu specifically?
So it's funny. I when I was young and I must have thought I was like Superman or something. I don't know. I had watched a base hosted MMA event. And in fact, Bruce Buffer from the UFC was like the guest referee or the voice guy.
That's
There's a
awesome.
Yeah, there's a guy, Josh Rosenthal, I think is his name. He used to be a UFC ref. He was the ref. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Like these are guys I watched on TV. And I was a big UFC fan. Like a lot of
Hmm.
people that get into jiu-jitsu are usually have some kind of like viewing pleasure with MMA. Uh,
Hmm.
in fact, I was the guy that was like, just stand him up because I just want to see him throw hands. That was my
Yeah.
mindset at first. And I watched that MMA event, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that'd be really cool if I had a chance to do like an amateur fight. And I got lined up with one, and I actually got talked out of it by my wife, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
We were watching like an ultimate knockouts thing, and essentially she's like, look how messed up that guy's face is. Look at this kid's crying when he retired in the ring. You want your daughter to see you looking like that? And I was like, all right, cool. I'll cancel the fight. My interest still, was peaked, and for me, getting a like the most amateur look, and not even falling through with my first fight, I still wanted to get into something like that. And
Hmm.
I did have a good friend of mine. He's done jujitsu for a very long time, since 2007. Um, he grappled like a little bit with me, just like messing around with me, toying with me. I had no idea what was going on. And the CRG, we had mats and we kind of rolled around. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was trying to imitate what I saw on TV. And
Hmm.
I just felt some kind of peace when I was doing that. Had another first sergeant that he used to just pull me up to the mats. He'd be like, "Hey, leave what you're doing. We're gonna go roll for the rest of the day. Like the last hour, we're gonna go up there and roll around." Like, okay, cool.
Hmm.
And it was really therapeutic for me. Um, and I just didn't take the opportunities. I went overseas to Japan. I was stationed out in Misao, Japan for 4 years. I had opportunities out there. I was just kind of focused on other things. And the opportunity to do jujitsu came here in Northern California at my last base. We were trying to get my kids to get off video games. It was something that simple. And I was like, I'm gonna make you do something physical. And there wasn't any wrestling programs at the time that were available to start. And we found a local gym based on a recommendation. After the first kids class they took, I started doing it with them. I wanted to be
Hmm.
involved with them, and I quickly found that it was a therapeutic tool for me. I think that was my biggest source of mental health enrichment was doing jujitsu throughout the rest of my career and still doing it today.
No, it's one of those sports that is a full body workout.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it's also not bad on your brain, unlike
Yeah.
if you were to get into boxing or Muay Thai.
Yeah. A lot of people call it the gentle art. I don't really experience the gentle side of jujitsu that much. I mean, we have a thing called a flow roll where you're just kind of like going through it and there's very little resistance. You're kind of guiding each other to each position or move or submission. You give them the opportunity to escape it. It's just kind of work things out in a flow state, and that's very useful for your jujitsu. But the thing I like about jujitsu is, to your point you made, it is a total body experience. Like you are getting worked out. You could be the most fit person and then you go into a jiu-jitsu academy and you start rolling with people and you're like, oh, so this is different. I
Mhm.
used to take my SWAT guys from my unit, bring them to my gym, and I make them roll with my wife. They'd just be stunned at how this tiny Filipino woman, they can't get her off of them. So it was really cool to share that experience. For me, one of the things that hooked me the most was the fact that you had to earn every bit. Like there's no handouts in jiu-jitsu. Uh, if you're gonna get that win, you got to earn that win, right? And you'll know when someone's kind of helping you work, which is cool. It's always useful to do it. I do it for people. I'll let them work every now and then. It's just, but when you're really trying to progress, you have to put in the time. You have to get that sweat in. Sometimes blood. I've had a lot of
Mhm.
injuries, a lot of boo-boos here and there, right? But it's just part of the game. And for someone in the military who's used to having to grind, day in, day out for 20 years, it was very, very easy for me to go right into jujitsu because for me, it was the same kind of mindset. It's a very similar community. Uh,
Mhm.
Community really is a blessing in my life because it's these relationships that you go through war with them every time you're on the mat. Like we try to kill each other, and then at the end of the day, we're buddies. It's just a repetitive process. You get through your 5 minute round. Maybe sometimes we set the timer for a longer round. You get done with that round, you dab each other up, usually give each other a hug. Hey man, good job. Go right next to the next partner, and those people end up being your very close friends. And I would say that I have a lot of relationships that really rival those long lasting military relationships uh, that I've had, throughout my 20-year career. So
It's weird how similar the different sports communities are while being so different. Like in motocross, you pull up to a track, you park, you unload your bike, somebody pulls up next to you, you say, "Hey, how's it going?" They say, "Hey, back." You go run some laps, they run some laps, then you're just like, "Sup, I'm so and so," and then you just boom, you just made a new friend.
yep, for sure.
Because and then you're chatting the rest of the day in between riding and then taking a break.
And you meet even the jiu-jitsu community, you meet other folks from other academies, and you can cross train into another gym, like where you're just like spending a day over there training with them. Maybe they have an open mat and multiple gyms come, just people just trying to gather and do the thing that we love, right? Um, you meet them in competition. I've made friends with multiple folks in competition, and we just try to kill each other. And now we're cool. Like I know your family, I know your history, I know
Mhm.
how you're doing, and every time I see you, I'm looking forward to see you at the next competition. And it's just really cool how you can connect like that through sports and martial arts or whatever your flavor is. So.
Yeah, definitely. So besides a full body workout, how does it help you mentally? Is it just like with any other sport where you're just mentally refreshed because you throw so much mental brain power into what you're doing that when you're
Mhm.
done, you're just like, ooh, it's a weight off your shoulders, or
Yeah, so everyone carries like the weight of their day. Maybe it's their week because they haven't found a way to be healthy throughout the week. So now they're carrying all this weight and pressure, and your mind is racing. When you get on the mat, it's something to do with like you're sitting down and you're facing an opponent, and if you're not concentrated on your opponent, they're going to get you. That's just the bottom line, right? If you're
Mhm.
just being lackadaisical, you're not moving, you're not being thoughtful, you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to pay for it. And I think that mindfulness in the moment, like the only thing I can focus right now is what's live in front of me. It really helps to reset the brain. And I found that that release that you feel mentally when you're getting off the mats after a good training session or whatnot. It's been good for me because it helps me to unload all that weight, and then I can go back, let's say, home to the family, and my kids can see a more present version of myself instead of someone who needs like a moment, and then that moment turns into like a 2, 3 hour routine, right? Where I'm just kind of
Hmm.
like closed off in the corner, which I've been guilty of in my career. Definitely not a saint in that regard, and it's just uh, it's been something that's been an amazing uplifting thing in my life that's positive that helps you to be fit. The more you strive to get better in that thing, that like I'm sure it's like motocross, like I'm gonna get better, so I might need to
Hmm.
have better habits to help support and fuel this obsession, right? So for me, it's
Hmm.
one of those things that's been a 360 in my life, and my whole family does it. So my wife and 2 kids do it, and it's been a cool journey.
No, it's definitely cool. It's been one of those sports that I've would like to get into. I don't have anything where close by me. I'd have to travel to do it, and my kids, getting them into sports has been tricky. My oldest is finally like, I want to do volleyball, and
Yep.
I can't even get them into motocross, but long bike rides at the end of the day after dinner, they're all for when it comes to that. Um,
Yeah.
so you've started coaching. I'm assuming you're kind of high up in the belt levels.
No, so I actually started. We call it in our gym. We just call it being a helper coach. That's how I first started
Hmm.
doing it. Um, I was a white belt, and I was just standing there waiting for the kids' class to get done. And I had a coach at the time that was running the class, and he's like, "Dude, I need you to come help me coach on the mats." And I'm like, "Dude, I just got here. Like, I can barely tie this belt. Like, I'm fat. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm definitely not in shape to help." He's like, "Dude, you just have to watch what I'm doing and make sure the kids are doing what I instructed. Can you do that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Cool, you're coaching. I'll get on that." And so I would do that and do the kids' classes to help out these instructors. And the more and more that I got up, like once I got to blue belt, especially like midway through the belt, um, I had the opportunity to help lead techniques. Or hey, you're going to take this group, go over here, you're going to teach them this technique. I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. I got a grasp on the fundamentals, and I fell in love with the fundamentals through my military unit. I attended combatives when I first got to security forces as their first sergeant, and there was a lot of things in like the basic. I'm talking like level one combatives curriculum
Hmm.
that I'm like, dude, that's an ineffective technique. And I remember I was like wincing in this chair. I was watching the technique happen off the mats, and the instructor kind of looked at me and was like, "Do you have any inputs on your jujitsu guys?" Like, yeah, I got some inputs, man. Like, I want you guys to train this because it's in your manual. This guy is certified to teach you that. You're gonna learn this, but for you little people or for the people that you don't feel secure holding somebody down, maybe try this technique. And it turned into that, turned into like an open mat group that we had, like a little fight club on
Hmm.
base. It was very successful. And then they're like, dude, can you teach me some stuff? And so it turned into like me teaching them basic jujitsu. And that really translated back to my gym and keeping up. I'm really close with our leadership in our gym. We're very blessed to have like good professors and instructors. And uh, the opportunity came up for me to teach my first class. And I was like, well, I'll
Hmm.
teach something I know. So I taught a fundamentals class. And now I've transitioned over like the last year. I've been going pretty strong with the fundamentals group that I have now, and seen a lot of cool improvements. So yeah, taking on more of a role to where I'm starting to teach people, but I'm staying in my lane still, right? Like I'm not trying to
Hmm.
teach the fancy YouTube things. Like I don't do that. Like I'm teaching good jujitsu, like stuff that like if you're trying to learn how to put on pressure or somebody, and especially if you're a little person, how do you beat the big
Hmm.
person? Because jujitsu is really a martial art that's supposed to be able to help a smaller, weaker opponent just take care of the larger, stronger individual that's in front of them. So
Hmm.
to be able to teach that foundation of jujitsu at the very fundamental level is has been a gift from me. So yeah, I'm at the point where I'm transitioning out of blue belt to purple, which is considered like a upper belt, purple, brown, black. Those are the top three belts, and you have the core belts and all these other things for the high level professors, but the main belts it's white, blue, purple, brown, black. So
Okay. Yeah. So is the goal at the as you progress in belt level to become like a full-time instructor at your gym or start your own gym or
I want
how
to get to the point where I contribute locally first. I'd love to own my own gym. I'd love to be an affiliate gym of the gym I'm in now. That
Mhm.
would be a great future goal. But yeah, that would be the plan is to progress, get better, to grow, teach it to folks, and hopefully have a school of my own. Have academy of my own, and continue the legacy that I had for the people that were bringing me up. So
No, that's cool. So the just for my own knowledge, I'm assuming do you have a full-time job outside of doing your fundamentals or
right now, I'm in the best retiree position possible. I have a wife that
Mhm.
doesn't want me to work.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
no.
been really gifted in that regard. You got the retirement and the disability stuff taken care of. So it's a big relief when you get your checks finally flowing.
Yeah, no, I
So
bet.
yeah, once you're at that point, you kind of look at your finances, and we're just in a very fortunate position where we can afford me being more present at home, spending more
Hmm.
time with the kids. Like I'm doing the soccer dad thing too. Like at the same time, I got a kid in basketball, I got a kid in track in high school, and we have something going on most days. I still manage to make it about 4 or 5 times a day or a week to the gym.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
That's
no, I
awesome.
think that's a lot of guys' dream job is to be stay-at-home dad. You want
Yeah,
me to hang out with the kids? You want me to take them to things, cook dinner, clean up around the house? Sweet. You got
yeah.
it.
The ultimate
No.
sugar baby plan. It's a thing. Yeah, and I'll take it.
Exactly.
I have plans to go back to school though. I still need to, as someone who had a professional background, I still want to be able to build on the things that I have. So I have plans to go back to school, switching degrees, uh, going from like the HR degree that I have to going over to a more of a counseling role, like a
Hmm.
psychology degree. That's the path I want to go, and I have that uh, ready to go in case I want to switch back into the professional realm. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's something that I plan on doing probably later in the year. I'll see how things go. But as far as employment goes, yeah, I want to see where this goes. It's something I'm
Hmm.
passionate about, and for anyone who's going to listen to this that's thinking about like what should they do after the military, I hope that you have the opportunity to pursue a career that you're passionate about instead of just getting a job for money. That would be like my goal for everybody. And
Hmm.
I'm just very thankful that right now it's kind of lining up to where I can kind of do both. So to get to that point where I figure out where ends meet financially and like for a new career, if I need to do that or I want to do that, I'll do it, and I'll still have jujitsu, and it's gonna, I'm sure, contribute the same way that it has in my professional
Hmm.
life as the next career in the civilian world.
No, there's something to be said about enjoying the job that you have because it really makes a big difference. Because if you just dread going to work or you get home and you're just so pent up because you just hate what you're doing, it's not enjoying or fulfilling at all. It definitely takes a toll on you.
Yeah, I've seen it too many times where you have folks that get out and they just go after a job because it seems to pay good. Well, that's cool, but like, are you happy? Because
Hmm.
I loved my career in the military. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And again, like I said earlier, if the stars aligned, I'd probably still be in right now. But I am glad again that I was able to transition and I'm moving towards the future. But I definitely want to have a job where I'm passionate about because I think I'll be more effective in that regard. Like I sometimes in the military we have folks that need to create their own motivations to ignite a passion, and that's
Hmm.
great. You have people that with that mindset that are able to do that, or have mentors to help kind of formulate that mindset in them so they can do great things in their service. Fantastic. But we got to do that in the outside too. So
Yeah, I see people who are getting out. I'm like, oh, what unit do you belong to? And they're like, oh, I'm part of field artillery. I'm part of infantry. I'm like, listen, I've been there. The grass is greener on the other side. You can get out, or they want you. They want to keep you. If you say, I want to reclass and go to a completely different unit, they're gonna do it. And trust me, if you're not liking where you're at now, there's another role that you can go into. Because I've met people who, like, there's a lot of people I'm assuming in the world like me who my recruiter pushed me into a specific job. I'm like, okay, that maybe if I like it, if I don't, I can hopefully I can change. I don't know. I was 19. I didn't know a whole lot about the military, but I got fortunate that I really like what I do in the military and full time for them.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
tell all these kids that I see getting out, like, listen, I know you're just getting done with your first contract and all, but there's better opportunities. There's different things. You don't have to stay, you know, in this one realm. You can branch out, learn something different, do something different, and it might be fulfilling. Plus, you know, translates differently to the civilian world too, depending on what you're doing.
For sure. And I understand there are career fields that there really is not much of a translation, like a boom operator.
Hmm.
I helped to plug a hose into a moving aircraft so we can keep the fight going. Like that's not exactly going to be a translatable job on the outside compared to,
No.
someone who works, let's say, at a desk and has HR background, or maybe a person with law enforcement experience or a firefighter, you name it, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times you see veterans they'll get out of the military and just do the civilian version of their job at the same location. And you see it a lot, right? And that's good. It provides continuity and everything. But to your point, there's also a lot of troops that don't realize uh, how good of a decision it was to join the military until they get maybe to the
Hmm.
next base. There's a lot of folks that they assume that this is the branch of service I joined because they went to BFE, right?
Hmm.
The obvious ones in the Air Force, it's like Minot, North Dakota. A lot of people are like, this freaking Minot. I want to go to Minot, like 20-degree negative weather. Like, yeah, but most people I've met actually like Minot when
Hmm.
they're really honest with themselves. And there's a lot of people that didn't, and that's cool. But they end up finding that the grass is greener when they get to the next location. And to your point with the cross training piece, you get a reclass in, you have a cool opportunity to do something different, and you might take it all away.
Hmm.
But it's going to have to take some personal drive though to take a risk, take a chance, and do some research, please. When
Yeah.
folks are making those kind of decisions, because it's good. I've seen it bite people too, where they try to reclass into something because it sounds cool.
Hmm.
I almost became a drone operator. That was one of my things early on in my career when I was at E4 that I applied for. Things didn't work out. It took too long to process, so someone gave my spot away, and I was heartbroken because I thought like, oh, that'd be the coolest job. And I had a buddy of mine that for him it wasn't what he expected, so he called me, asked how my status was, and he ended up telling me he's like, dude, I do more job mission planning than I do the real job. And for him, mission planning was like the worst thing in the world. For others, they probably love it. I probably would have loved it. I don't know. But for
Hmm.
him, he's like, dude, this is not my cup of tea. And he had to find creative ways to transition to another career opportunity. For him, it was going officer.
Hmm. It sounds a little funny saying I don't like mission planning and becomes an officer who probably does a
That's
lot of mission planning.
a ton. But he found a way to love it. And as far as I know, he's getting ready to retire. He was a little farther along in his career than I was. So I think he's getting close uh, to eligibility for retirement. But more power to him.
Hmm.
I had opportunities to get on a path to go to OTS or whatever to transition to an officer, but I think I was just way too enlisted to make that
Yeah.
transition. I love being enlisted. It's all I know, and I love it. So
No, I know plenty of guys who are like that, who are like, maybe I should go warrant officer. And then they're like, no, no, I kind of like, being in charge of guys, training up new people, making sure they're proficient at their job so that way, you know, if they have to step away while a engine's being changed, the work doesn't stop.
and a lot of
Um,
people that they're narrow-minded in their jobs to where that's definitely not everyone, but there's quite a few people I noticed that they're like, this is all I do day in, day out. Like if you look at a standard defender, right? There are some folks that live in the flight realm where they're just doing shift work. And so they go to guard mount, they get their brief, they got their weapons and gear, they go out to that post that they're guarding. And for them, they're just like, man, this is all my job is. And I'm like, you haven't even deployed or TDY'd yet. So you haven't experienced
mhm.
a broader realm yet. But when you get more experience, you might go into a back shop. You might do this maybe you might become an investigator, or you go over here and do this other cool thing, like a running training or something like that, and it'll
Hmm.
reignite a flame again. And now they have more pride in the career field. But a lot of folks do miss out on the opportunities. I would say partly it's a personal issue because a lot of people don't seek out the opportunities, but there's also a lot of leadership that doesn't necessarily do a good job of giving people opportunities, and that's the human
Hmm.
state we're in. No one's perfect. So a lot of time these folks they need to go out and try to find that thing that's going to give them that fire to continue on in their service. It's also
Yeah.
not for everyone to go 20, and that's
No,
okay.
no, it's not. The one of the things in the guard is because I work with our CIF people the people who here's your gear, your rucksack, your helmet, all that stuff.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
you're getting out. All right, yep, this is good, this is good, this is good. Hey, you're missing this. Think you can come back with it? Yep, okay. Or this is ripped. Don't worry about it. Things get broken in training. It happens. Um, but when I talk to some of these people getting out, it's like I'm missing too much because the op tempo for the guard has just increased like
Sure.
dramatically. Um, Especially if you're like I've been a part of the support company who's attached to field artillery, and that they say, week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. Well, that became 3, 4 days a month, 3 weeks in the summer, plus potentially drill days on the front end and the back end.
Hmm.
The op tempo has increased, and some of these people I meet getting out are like, I make too much in my civilian world. It's not worth it to me to stay in as an E4, E5, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's you know part of the double-edged sword of being in the guard is you got to have a job, a full-time job, and
Yeah. And a lot of people don't give them credit for the volatility of like their deployment schedule. I
Mhm.
had met so many people downrange, like on humanitarians. I was in Iraq when I was in Kuwait, pulling people out of Iraq. Like there's guard in reserve everywhere. And you ask them
Mhm.
how long they've been deployed, how many times they've deployed. There's a lot of folks that need to kind of wake up and count their blessings before they start the day, before they can start getting salty, because you guys get ran through.
Yeah, we've got units in battalions in my state because I'm one of the guys who pushes the button to do this with their property book and be like, oh, your forward's activated and your rear's activated and all that.
Yeah.
Um, we have units on 4 or 5 year rotations. I think we actually have one on like a 3 year rotation or 4 year rotation, something like that. That, and if people joke on the guard, but if you look at like best warrior competition, best sniper competition, see how many guard soldiers are up there. Granted, they get more time to train, but they also have full-time jobs too, which
And I've seen a lot of people too, like they have their service obligation and they're walking away from some pretty sweet civilian gigs to go serve their time. And I know early on I was being a lot of guardsmen that were like these guys got master's degrees and they're putting those degrees to work. And
mhm,
they got a cush, awesome life, and they get called up and now they're spending the next 11 to 13 months, 15 months, downrange without return. And there's a lot of people in that position that people just don't realize. But we also on the opposite end have a lot of people that never had a taste of a deployment or a TDY, and then you got what's going on in the world right now, and it's a concern
mhm,
for sure, which I guess is why I get so passionate about the current times with mental health. So I'm like, man, you got to get prepared, and if you're
mhm,
not good in the head, like you got to get good. And how do we do that? So trying to help people to shift their brain a little bit, because I'm like, if this turns into something big, which we'll see.
yeah,
Like I made a career out of hurrying up and waiting. I've been there, done that. So, now they get a taste of the thing that they sign up for, and you talk a lot of
mhm,
game. You got your posts, and you got all these things you say to your buddies when you're showing up to work. But like when you actually get that tasking letter and your name's on it, you know, you could be the next guy that's gonna be out there with the guard and
mhm.
out there for a long time. You don't know, and you don't know if it's gonna be a hostile territory or non-hostile. So, people got to get ready. They got to gear up.
No, there's no. Did anyone expect the current state of the world right now? No. did, but has that been said over the last several years? Well, I didn't expect this to happen over the last 20 years. Every year or two, something different popping up. It's just the times we're living in. Anything can happen at any given time. Um,
I noticed too that there's a certain tempo that, on the military side we have to be responsible for and to take action on. When I came in the military, they were like, when you go down there, like when you go over there and you cross that pond and you get over there, that was the first conversation we were having in training when I was a basic.
mhm,
And everyone followed suit when you're in your AIT equivalent, your tech school for the Air Force, and then you have the next stop, which is your first installation you're at. If you don't have any additional trainings, they kept that same conversation going, and I watched it evolve over 20 years. I watched it go from that to, hey, we're starting to do some combatives and basic. Oh, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to lengthen basic training. No, we're not. I'm not going to do that anymore.
mhm,
There's a lot of
yep,
back and forth, a lot of, hey, there's this thing called the deployment, and you'll find that out at next base. Like we're going to kind of talk about it, but we're not really going to talk about it. So I've
mhm,
seen I've seen it. It's been weird. And then it's good to see there's a different emphasis through the ranks, and there's a lot of executive driving things going down into the service branches that I think are going to help out overall for like readiness. But man, people got to get something. Like we have our things and it's helping us.
mhm,
And for a lot of us, we find it out in the military and then we can transition that out. A lot of people find that outlet after they sever that link to their service. But folks got to get connected and find something to to feed, that need to get better or to maybe release the stress or to get healthier,
yep,
to get community. They need those
mhm.
things.
No, and I played video games, pretty much my whole life. I love video games. Um, I don't think it'll ever be, a career for me or anything like that. But everyone's got to, you can't just have that, just like you can't just have reading books. If you're really into, you know, going through books, or I also build model kits. You can't just do that. You got to have something physical, which is, why I really like OVN's Ambassador Athlete program.
For sure.
It's helping people find their next mission, their next plan,
Mhm.
figuring out, you know, I'm still in or I'm getting out or I am out. What I need something to, you know, I need a goal. Is that how you felt when you first learned about OVN? How did you learn
Yeah,
about
so
it?
it came across my feed. I was just doom scrolling and it popped up. I think I kind of hit a couple hashtags, some to do with military or sports, and
Hmm.
it popped up, and I saw OVN, and I remember I reached out through a DM, and I was just like, hey, I really appreciate what you guys do. I went on the website, I read the mission statement, saw some of the videos that were posted, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And I remember Tony hit me up and he was just
Hmm.
like, hey man, want to link up? And we kind of got on a Zoom call, talked for a real long time, and the ambassadorship came up after that. And it's been great. And it was cool for me to start that as an active duty person, uh, getting people in the mindset of like, hey, there's ways you can connect when you're, transitioning out. I just did that. I got ambassadorship through Kaizen Grappling Foundation as well, and it's been awesome to share jujitsu that way. But I love doing it with OVN because of that military connection, and
Hmm.
especially being a first sergeant, it just the type of message that OVN brings, the encouragement, the outlets, the awareness to what's really going on in the community. That's something that can never go away, and I love that OVN's taking that active stance. We got people plugged into pretty much everything. Like we got a
Yeah,
pickleball, we got people. I think we have a
I'm.
NASCAR guy now.
Mhm.
Yeah, like we have cool stuff,
Yeah, we
drifters.
do. I'm planning on talking to two different pickleball people. One of them is just recently got into the military, got picked up because there's professional pickleball. She got drafted, which I found that out is really cool. So she recently got in the military and got drafted into, a pickleball team. And she joined as an officer. So that'll be cool to get that aspect of like somebody so new in their career, because most of the people have been in around as long as me, or like you and have been out for, you know, as long as you have or a little bit longer. So
Yeah,
that'll be cool to get that young perspective of
agreed.
of
Yeah, and like
everything.
you look at a lot of these things that people are into. Some of these folks, like these are like childhood passions, right? That
Hmm.
develop into later things, and you see history of that. And when you're looking at the OVN athletes we have and their what they post, a lot of these people they've been doing it for like a really long time, and to see kind of that reignition of like a passion that you had
Hmm.
maybe before the military, they had to kind of give up, and then now you see that transition on the outside, like okay, I'm gonna pick up something I actually love to do. And this competition portion of it, it's just like you said, it's a mission. You know,
Hmm.
uh, I initially wanted to compete a lot. I did a lot in my first belt. Like I had fun doing it, but for me, I found another path within the path. And for me, developing as a coach, developing into an instructor one day, being able to hopefully coach people on the sideline. Uh, it's a good way to combat your injuries. Like you get a lot of
Yeah.
injuries, and it's been something that kind of helps me recoup. But also at the same time, I'm growing as a practitioner by being able to articulate things that I learned and to pass them on. And you don't really find that when as easy when you're trying to figure out what you want to do by yourself. And
Hmm.
you'll have someone that's like, "Hey, man, this is OVN. Check them out. You get them plugged in, and like anything you like." And let's say they're like, "Yeah, I got motocross." Well, I can hit up Johnny he literally lives like 10 minutes away from me, and he's one of our MX guys, and he's a
Yeah.
Marine Corps vet. Like I can go hit him up, for my buddy Ray, my buddy Tyler, the jiu-jitsu guys. And we have various guys,
Hmm.
that are really close nearby us. And to know that we're all over the country, we can provide that kind of a connection point to get
Hmm.
people on a good path, especially when they need one. That's amazing, man.
No, it definitely is because there's something special about the connecting with other veterans because it's something that when you get out, you lose. Like I use this as an example. One of my first units was that I went to Fort Custer for, and they had barracks there, and it was an hour and a half to Fort Custer, and it was and we if we were drilling there, I'm staying the night,
Right.
however long it is, because I'm not driving an hour and a half home and then an hour and a half in the morning. It's too much driving, too much risk, and all that. And so getting that escape essentially for me, you know, once a month to hang out with people similarly minded, varying in ages, but for the most part, I hung out with the guys who were close to my age and just relaxing with them, growing, um, a sense of boosting morale essentially and all
For
that and
sure.
just getting close together. When I went to a different unit that I don't have that anymore, it's you lose something.
Yes.
And not being having been active duty, not I've tried to go on a deployment, broke my collarbone, couldn't go. Um, Not having that, I can only assume that's kind of what it's like from, an active duty person getting out, is you lose that camaraderie and it's something that you kind of need, regardless of how long you're in. It's going to
Yeah.
be part of you that's missing.
Yeah, I mean, you have the onesie twosies that want to be like hermits and they embrace
Hmm.
their hermit life. Like I had an old first sergeant of mine. He moved to Alaska in a trailer, just him and the dogs. I get it. Some people like that solitude, but the majority of us, we need to thrive in a community. And when you look back at your service, it's like, dude, you had your buddies. You had your
Hmm.
people that you went to, whether it was just for lunch or you were seeking them out at work, or you just couldn't wait to run into them because they were your people. And I think you hit it on the nail because for me, I went 20 years. I did my retirement ceremony and I basically went right into a month of leave, then Skill Bridge. I was very thankful to have Skill Bridge. It was a good decompression point for me. But
Hmm.
man, I felt that in the first 2 weeks of being gone, just hitting up my other first sergeant buddies. We talk about all the things. That was our best time. We
Hmm.
get to tea, just get it off our chest. We get vent, in a very
Hmm.
trusted circle, and then we get right back to the job, right? And we get back in there and take care of people. Going to like a lunch after I retired and I was done. Like
Hmm.
I was out, and I remember sitting at a lunch, and their phones start ringing, and like, oh man, another thing. Yeah, we got to get going to that. I don't worry about it, Chili. You ain't got to worry about that. Like, that's not your problem. And I'm like, I want to do my problem. I'm like, what's up, dude? And they're like, nah, man. Oh, we'll just talk about it after we get back on base. I'm like, damn. And it was very sudden for me. And
Hmm.
I did feel that big void. I didn't think I would. I was like, I'll be fine. But I did feel it. I felt a little down for a little bit because I was just like, dude, I feel much less because for so long, especially through a 20-year career, that becomes a major part of your identity. And
Hmm.
I know all branches preach the same thing. Like, you might be off work, but you're still a member of the Army. You're still a Marine. You're still an airman. Like, you
Yep.
need to get your crap together outside of uniform too, because you represent 24/7. So if that's the case, and then you get done with that, and you don't no longer have that obligation, it's tough to fill that void. So you have to be
Hmm.
active about it. Like, I went and started training even more at first because I was like, I gotta get connected. I gotta have something. And I was even fortunate that some of my activity folks train at the same gym that I go to here in California. So uh, yeah, man, it really sneaks up on you. Super not talked about enough. Uh,
No,
how
no,
people
it
deal with that transition. Yeah.
no, it definitely that, and some people are fortunate enough to go from being a first sergeant to a master sergeant or back down to in the army to start in first class or stuff and get that break and not be they might be in charge of some people, but they're not in charge of a whole unit, which has its own quirks, and you get calls that, all times a day for all kinds of things, whether it's good or bad. Um, and that's why I like our mission right now is prevention before crisis and
Mhm.
finding your next mission. Because if you can find your next mission, it's gonna be a prevention before you get to crisis. It's gonna help you, sort some stuff out.
And I really hope that, folks that don't have the opportunity to see or even utilize, organizations like ours, like with OVN,
Mhm.
you can only hope and pray that those people have good people in the corner to get them there to where they are starting to find some kind of preventative method before it does become a crisis, right? Like for us, that fits right along line of the mission statement that we have. It's just, hoping that everyone can find that connection too in the active duty side. I really hope and pray that they take that seriously because it's going to be needed. And I don't want them to
Mhm.
discover that, when it's like a little bit too late. You know, I've seen it too many times, and it's great to have this because it's also a calling for us. Like for those
Mhm.
of us that are out, and me transitioning fully out and being a civilian again, like being a retiree, I'm like, dude, I gotta find something. It's either I'm gonna go to the VFW and put on one of those weird hats, or I'm gonna go to the American Legion or whatnot and get
Mhm.
connected and have some kind of connection if I can't, be directly impacting the base. But like I gotta do something after 20 years. Like I gotta at least be affiliated in some way, shape, or form. And what better way than to do it through pursuing your passions and to help people
No,
discover theirs? That's amazing. Yeah.
no, it definitely is because anybody who's listened this long or gone this far, even if this is your first time checking out this podcast, which I hope my goal is we've got so many athletes across so many different sports. Uh, the only thing I don't think we have is cricket, which until we go international, I don't think we're gonna have cricket.
Yeah, I'm just be a big one there. But dude, we have such a huge portfolio of
Mhm.
athletes. Um, every now and then I'll just go to like the social media pages and start scrolling and seeing all the things we're doing. Like we got, especially in the realm of martial arts, like me being a martial arts guy, like we have a very wide range of people, and it's really motivating when you see people that are champions that
Mhm.
are, taking part in that. And you have folks that are just starting out, people that just do it kind of like a hobbyist, but it's become a little bit more. It's just so cool to see, man. I didn't know nothing about anything to do with like MX or we got guys that race
Mhm.
snowmobiles. Like
Yeah, I
it's
just talked to our
so cool.
snowcross guy. That's the
Yeah.
last one, and I knew that there was, snowmobile competitions like that. I didn't realize that they were like motocross, but on snow, like flying through the air, hitting triples, just
It's crazy.
on. Yeah, no, especially because of how heavy snowmobiles are. They're like four dirt bikes.
Yeah. And even like the folks that do like CrossFit, lifting,
Mhm.
the bodybuilding, like it's such a variety of people that If people just want to check out OVN, just give it a shot. Like just
Hmm.
try to make that connection. Reach out, say what's up, plug in. I guarantee you we're likely going to find someone for you. And if you're
Hmm.
curious, find someone for you, even if it's not something you're already doing. I think that's just the cool part about the way we set up the ambassadorship program because you have people that are actually passionate about what they do. So it's not just going to be some telemarketer type connection. It's going to be like, dude, you want to get into this? I'm like, cool. Have
Hmm.
you thought about this? Or like, here's a website for this stuff. And hey, why don't you come down and meet me? I'm in your area. And maybe
Hmm.
you're in like Oklahoma. Maybe I'll look on the list and like, who's in Oklahoma, man? We get on that chat and get you connected with someone. That's how it should be
Yeah.
done. And it's it's so cool to see that our folks are doing that day in, day out, and it's reaching a lot of good people and
Hmm.
deserve to have that fighting chance to take care of themselves, especially when life gets them down. Like you never know what someone's going through, but we got to try our best to be good humans and especially take care of our brothers and sisters. Like not everyone's as fortunate as we are. So
No,
you'll help them out, man.
definitely. The people unfortunately struggle every day, and hopefully, you know, things get better with an outlet for people. For me, I'm trying to figure out what I can do during the winter that's physically active because I can't ride dirt bikes in the snow.
Yeah,
And snowmobile is not something I could really probably do just because the snow here this year we got a ton. Last 2 years we did not, and I have to go super far to ride it.
yeah, yeah. We're pretty decent out here. Like I'm in an area of California where it's just sunny all the time.
Hmm.
And then when it's wet, it stays wet. Like we have connections there. I talk about it quite often. I'm in the middle of just trying to get a bunch of people that I do jujitsu with, trying to get veterans that do jujitsu too.
Hmm.
I got a few lined up in my own gym that I can talk to about military experience and jujitsu and kind of bridge the two in the conversation. On our podcast, it's the Dirty Shirts podcast. We got an Instagram, we got a Spotify account, but uh, yeah, just trying to continue the connection point. I don't really
Hmm.
want it for me. I want it for people to try it out for themselves. It's been something that's completely changed my life. It's altered it in the best way possible. You will become obsessed if you get into it. I can tell you it's for the right reasons. I made a lot of great friends, shared a lot of hard times, and it's just been so good for me, especially as a military person and someone who's retired. Being in uniform and out of uniform, it affects my life on the regular. So I guess that's how they can really help out. Go check it out. Check a gym out. See what vibe fits for you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Side question because I just thought of it. If somebody's like, I've got bad joints, I've had shoulder injuries before, I've got a bad back. I'm assuming in before you do any kind of rolling, you build up the muscle groups and that type of thing, and work on the fundamentals. Is that something that people shouldn't have to worry about too much, or?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to try it, as long as they go to a good gym, because not every gym is built differently, and that's just the truth of the matter. You can ask any person who does jujitsu for any amount of time, they could tell you that. But I joined with quite a bit of injuries, and I've gotten quite a bit of injuries, but it's just the pace that I train at. It's at the level that I train at where I exert myself, maybe more
Mhm.
than like the standard hobbyist, right? Because I really go hard when I roll with my friends, and
Mhm.
you pick and choose like you kind of dictate it. Like if you don't want to go hard, then don't go hard. Like you can
Mhm.
let your own pace because you can do it in a way that's towards your journey. And then your progression is going to be your progression. It's
Yeah.
not a standard across the board. Not everyone gets looked at the same way. So I think there's ways that they can get into it, be safe, and still progress and still grow in it. And but they're going to have to first show up. That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's always the hardest step is the first one.
Yeah.
And sometimes the 10th if you get pushed back a couple steps because of a setback or whatever it is. Um, and I just realized for how long we've been talking for, we've been talking
We've been
longer
grinding.
than I had planned, which is good.
Yeah.
Um, but I think now is probably a good time to wrap it up if you're good with that.
Yes, sir.
All right. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on today on this episode of No Neutral. Um, Chili, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, the goal is to eventually, do a bunch of these, and then I'm hoping we get enough listeners and followers and stuff that we can do a live one and take live questions and be live on Facebook or YouTube or something.
Yeah, that'd be
And
awesome.
hope, yeah, I'm hoping to get a whole bunch of different people on that because I think it'd just be cool to have, a bunch of people together. Um, if people want to find you, where can they find you on Instagram to see what you're doing next?
Yeah, my my handle's Gsun Boys, GEESUN boy, just one word. Long story is that my mom nicknamed me that a long time ago, so I just stuck with it. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, um, and I usually have connection points through there. So
Hmm.
come check me out, hit me up. We can chat it up, talk about life, all the things, and worst case scenario, check out the podcast or check me out at Yuba City at Ground Up. So
Yeah.
thanks so
If
much for having
you're
me.
you're a veteran and you're thinking about getting into a sport, maybe you did it as a kid, or maybe you've thought about it and always dreamed of it, please reach out to OVN. We've got somebody somewhere that can talk to you about it, help you, in the right direction. Like, if you ask me about motocross, I'm going to tell you find a place that can rent it. You definitely want to, do some training, but also you can go cheap on your bike. You can't go cheap on your helmet. You're gonna get that, depending on, the sport. This you can cheap on, don't cheap on that because that's gonna be important for you. Um, if anyone wants to find me anywhere, I am Purple Badger Man, capital PBM, no spaces. Make sure to check out OVN's website, which is whoops, right behind me, and it will be down here below at opvetnow.org. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, the goal is prevention before you reach crisis. But if you are in a crisis, Vet for Warriors is a confidential veteran ran help service you can call, email, or chat with 24/7. It is confidential. These guys, gals are all veterans and they have been trained. They might not be, you know, psychiatrist level, but they have training and they will be able to help you. You can also call the Veteran Crisis Line at 988 or 988 and press 1. Everyone, thank you for listening or watching, and we will see you all on the next episode. Thanks and have a good one.